We are so grateful for our partnership with the Whitefish Bay Public Library. And so I would like to welcome Katie Keefe-Kafer, the children's librarian, to say a few words. Hi, Katie.
Hi, thank you so much. I just want to thank you all for being here, and thank you to Daniel for partnering with us and for being a great partner over the last few years. Sarah, thank you for being here. As some of you might know, public libraries are doing a lot of pivoting when it comes to the pandemic and how we can serve our public. So right now we're only available for curbside pickup, but we are still bustling inside the building to get materials out to folks. And we're also doing a lot of virtual programming. So if you want to check out our Facebook page, we have virtual story times. We're doing kids programs, and also all kinds of great take and make kits, both for children and also for adults. So swing by our Facebook page. We're at Whitefish Bay Public Library. And then if you go to our website, which is wfblibrary.org, you can find more information about the fun things that we have going on. We also love talking books and recommending books. So feel free to shoot us an email or give us a call. We would love to serve you. All right, so it is my honor to introduce Sarah Williamson. She grew up technically in Whitefish Bay, but basically has had a very interesting career path. Studied political science at UW-Madison, and also illustration at the Art Center College of Design in Los Angeles. She is the freelance art director at the New York Times and has contributed illustrations to the New York Times and other clients. And her first book was published in 2015.
Thank you for joining me.
We are going to have a little bit of conversation now, Katie and Sarah and I. And my first question to you is, how did you come up with the idea for Elevator Bird?
Well, I was looking at a lot of picture books, trying to get inspiration. And the two books that I was looking at, I think, in my pile is Madeline, Eloise, in the Hotel in New York City. And then M. Sasek is like a Czech illustrator. He has a book called This is New York. And in that book, there are all these drawings of New York. And there's a page or half a page devoted to elevators in New York. So I think somehow those two books made it into my idea, because I started drawing elevators, and then I drew a little bird in the elevator. And then immediately I just thought, his name is Elevator Bird, and he works at the hotel. That was my first idea, my first page, and my first spread. And then from there, it was like, he welcomes everyone, tall and small. So that's kind of the start of the story.
Mm-hmm. Katie, do you have a question?
Yeah, so Sarah, as someone who is both an illustrator and an author, do you start with illustrations or the text? It sounds like sort of notebooks and doodles are a place to start, but I'd love to hear more about your process.
Yeah, I mean, I jot down a lot of sentences, and I guess it depends for every book, but with Elevator Bird, it definitely started with a little doodle of an elevator. I put the bird in, and then I was drawing on my Wacom, but now I draw on an iPad. And I remember drawing the elevator, drawing the bird, and then at the top of the page, I wrote, "This is Elevator Bird. He works at the hotel." And then he said, "Hello." That kind of never changed in all the drafts that I made of the book. And then from there, from the first image and the text, I thought of the text for the second page, and then I drew it, which was like, "He welcomes everyone, tall and small." That was in the original version. It was like this idea of a little bird welcoming everybody in the elevator, helping everybody, and then also giving them a kind word. I've spent a lot of time in elevators when I lived in New York City. I think, like, working at the New York Times, I took the elevator a lot, and I think some of those conversation bits definitely stuck in my mind, like when I was writing this book, just because like there's a lot of small talk kind of in elevators sometimes, and I had all of that in my head when I was writing this.
Do you think is this definitely a New York elevator, do you think?
Yeah, it is, even though it's like kind of like a psychedelic, or not psychedelic, but like a rainbow color palette. It is like definitely like a New York kind of mindset bird, and then all the characters. It's very international, I'll say that.
That's true. Yes, well, right. It could be anywhere, but I was like, oh, this
It's
is...
very international, global.
What I'm going to pass to Katie, but I do really need to know. I read the book and I was like, when they build the rooftop house, I was so amused by the things that they need, and especially the disguise. So what do you think they use the disguise for in building the rooftop house?
Well, that was in case Elevator Bird saw one of them, then they would be wearing the disguise. And actually, like in an earlier draft, I had Esther, the ostrich, wearing the disguise. And I remember I used situational irony. I had, Elevator Bird said, Esther, is that you? And Esther is wearing the disguise and she says, no, I'm here for an inspection.
Backstory.
So that is like, that disguise carries over from like one of my earlier drafts. And then it was just so funny to see an animal wearing a disguise.
I think there's definitely a book in your future of animals wearing lots of disguises.
I guess as an extension of that, I think what I love about this book and what I think has been really fun to share with kids at the library, we really like Let's Go for story time. And it's great that you hide so many little jokes and little kind of quirky things throughout the illustrations. Would you consider that your style? Is it something that kind of flows naturally in the story, or are you making a sort of, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to throw in stuff, or is it just natural?
I think it is pretty natural, but like with this book, I think I definitely tried to throw in as many nuggets as I could on every page, because I think the text and the story just really supported that in this. Like you could do little things everywhere, like give all the animals special outfits, like Mr. Rumpley is the manager and he wears a bow tie, and he's wearing boots, although I wasn't allowed to say leather boots in the book because my publishers thought that was weird.
Oh,
interesting.
What other things were, oh, maybe you shouldn't tell us.
Conversations, no. Just because like, an animal to wear leather boots, I thought like, and then also like the food that Randy cooks, I thought like everything should be vegetarian. That was definitely a conscious choice. It's not like, but yeah, I love all the little details in this book. I hope kids and adults will too. It was really, really fun to write and really fun to do the art for this book.
I'm curious as to what other, you intrigued me with the part about the ostrich wearing the disguise taken out. What, it's ostrich, right? No, flamingo. What did I get wrong? Oh, my brain. What other things changed about the book? Did you have to make it shorter, like because of kind of the rules about like a good picture book should be about? Usually.
So I didn't have to make it shorter because like the guidelines are for a picture book, they should be 16 spreads.
Yeah.
So I always kind of stuck to that. But in my original version that I sent my agent, Elevator Bird was like really, really kind. And there was a hotel manager named Norman who was a goat. And he kind of took advantage of Elevator Bird. And everybody just like loaded all this stuff on Elevator Bird. And he got like really upset. And he like went through the roof and flew away. But then everybody felt bad and they called him and he came back. But my agent didn't think that it felt completely organic to him. So like he suggested that I come up with another idea to make it more like interesting to people and more compelling for him to sell. So
wow. So and that made you, and did somebody also say then, goats as managers, I don't know, I'd pick a lion?
No. It wasn't like, it's not about the animal, it's just about like the way it flowed. He said like something took a wrong turn for him when Because it was like all of a sudden Norman comes in and he's like, elevator bird, get over here.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little mean for a picture book, so.
Yeah, like he thought it was too much, and he said like it just something took a wrong turn for him. So we kind of talked it through, and my agent actually came up with the idea of like him living in the basement. And he just tossed it out there like very nonchalantly. Oh, maybe he lives in the basement and his friends build him a home on the roof. And as soon as he said that, and I started doing it, I was like, it's crazy, but this works perfectly. For as far as like a rough draft to send to the publishers, and it just did. I mean, the other thing that I didn't have right away was I didn't introduce the characters. Like I didn't have a page saying like takes a big team to run a hotel, and then introducing all the characters. My agent suggested that in order to send to the publishers, and then when it came to my publishers, they suggested like an even bigger revision where like, okay, like you have a huge cast, like this is going to be really confusing to people if you don't just have a page and just say like, it takes a big team and then give everybody jobs. And I think it's one of the smartest things that that like happened in the making of this book, in order to like really make like the architecture of the book like really seamless and really work. It's like, it's such a crucial page now I see, but I didn't have that in like any of my first 4 drafts.
Well, Katie and I were talking that it gives the book like a Richard scariness to it.
Right.
And how many kids just love, like, I need everything spelled out. I want to know what every job is. I want to know who everybody is. Yes. I want to know the worms' names, which I have now named Wormy and Wormette. But, you know, something you have to do on your own.
I mean, my colleague with a 4-year-old daughter told me that her daughter has already memorized everyone's job. She knows all their names. So I take that as a good sign.
Katie?
Sure. I think Carol in the chat has a question. Do we want to start with her?
Yes, we should definitely. Carol said that she was interested that some of the words might be more advanced for younger children, like eggplant parmesan. How did you decide whether a word or a term is age appropriate, and was that an issue?
I didn't really think about that too much, because when I talked to my agent and my publishers, like we thought that this book could have a broad appeal. Instead of being like 3 to 5, this book can appeal to like, I think maybe like ages 3 to 8. So it's okay to have like some more advanced words, because then the little ones, like people, the parents can explain that to them. And then for the older ones, like they can read it without any trouble. I wanted this book to like be a kind of a crossover, whereas I think some of my other books, like they're very, like Where Are You? My first book is about a worm searching for another worm in a park. And that book is just definitely for 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds. It's like, it's so age specific, but I think Elevator Bird is like just much broader. And I really like that about this book, that it feels more accessible to a greater range of kids.
I like the idea that the worms were searching for another worm and then they became porters.
Yeah, they're the same worms from my first book.
Oh.
They left the park.
They got some jobs.
Yeah, they got
World of New York Elevator. Yeah. Katie,
yes. So I feel like I have to ask this as a children's librarian. What were your favorite books as a child? And do you feel like you were influenced by what you read as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Richard Scarry was definitely one of my favorite author illustrators. I loved like poring over all the details. I can still look at those books for like an hour or 2. And then another really big author for me was Shel Silverstein. I know that's a little older, but like I loved all of his poems, and I love the drawings, and like I still think everything in his books like really holds up today. Like he's such an original voice. So those would be like my 2 favorite childhood books, I would say.
We were talking about that you might have some sketches.
Yeah, I do.
Share?
I do.
We would love to see them.
Okay. This is like the original sketch that I sent my agent and my publishers for the book. It's just like pack a lot of animals in an elevator and have a little bird on the outside. And the stick is one of another really like favorite part of my book, where He uses the stick to push the buttons. I thought that was very funny.
You know, I'm such a bad, I thought to myself, oh, he's using this stick to shove people in the elevator.
Oh, no.
Then I saw them.
Yeah, it's also to hold the door open. No.
It's like the Japanese public transportation systems. You know,
Yeah.
like, get it.
The baton. These are some bird sketches that I did. I was like trying to find the right bird, but I don't know. In the end, the bird became pretty similar to the one I originally sketched, except that I think he got a little bit more plump. So this is the sketch where it was kind of like mapping out the team. So this page came way, way later, like after my publishers agreed to buy the book, and we had been working on it for like a year. My new editor came up with the idea of doing a page like this. So this was a really fun page to do because you could just really, I had them say whatever came into my mind, and I could kind of hear the voices in my head. This is the first sketch for the book. This is like exactly how it was when I first came up with the idea in my first draft. This is Elevator Bird. He works at the hotel, and then the rainbow hotel.
That works.
We have a couple more questions. Have you been inspired by Portugal for a book?
Yeah, definitely. I've like written a bunch of drafts of stuff since I've been here. I'm working on a story right now called The Froggies of Sintra. They are like 6 little frogs who they live in an ancient clock tower, and they go to Lisbon for a day.
Oh.
There's a little bit of drama, but maybe not enough, so I'm still working on it.
I don't remember where it was, but I think like the most beautiful bookstore in the world is somewhere in Portugal. I see photos every so often.
Is it called Hippopotamus? Oh, no, you're talking about the one in Porto, La Livraria. It's
Yes.
where the Harry Potter writer was inspired to write the Harry Potter series. She lived in Porto for a couple of years while she was writing that book, or before she wrote it. And it is an incredible library with like a old wooden staircase and a line 1,000,000 miles long. Maybe not now, but.
No. What talk a little about your other books for folks who don't know them.
So Where Are You is the first book that I did with Knopf, and that's about a green worm searching for a pink worm in a park. It's a concept book for 2-year-olds, and it uses prepositions to drive the narrative. So it's always like, where are you? Under the bench, around the corner, on the lily pad. That book was really, really fun to make. It came about because I was sending a friend of mine messages of the pink worm saying like, where are you? And then he would answer back, and then I would answer him back with little doodles. And for some reason, my publisher, they saw the sketches on my website and they were really intrigued, and they thought it would be a really great concept book. Then my second book, Let's Go, is about an elephant and a bird out on a joyride. And they collect a bunch of stuff and put it on Tusky's red truck. Tusky is the elephant. And then they go up a hill and bad stuff happens, but they organize everything, put it back together, and have a lovely picnic. And Cactus and Flowers, my third picture book. I think that book came because I spent a lot of time in Tucson, Arizona, where my mom and brother and his wife and 2 daughters live. And that book is about a cactus and a pink flower, and it's like a life cycle book where the flower dies, but then another one grows back on the other arm, and it's a different color. That's kind of like it's kind of like a little poem. That book, it has very simple text, and that book was really, really fun to paint because it was like beautiful desert scenes with a cactus, and a nice little relationship that ended, but then a new one began. So, and then Elevator Bird. So.
Arpine, I think, said she loves, or that Arpine loves how it's a story of kindness and loves the illustrations. So lots of wonderful notes in the comments. Victoria loves the whimsical illustrations and lighthearted story. So
thank you.
Yeah. And this is probably their last chance for questions. So if you have a question, send it in chat. Katie, do you have another question?
Yeah, I guess I would love to know. I always think it's so interesting what people major in college, and I love the shift from political philosophy to art. And I would love to know more about why you went to art school, what brought you into illustrations. Just wanting to know more.
Yeah, it was very like just a lot of strange circumstances. I had moved to Los Angeles after I went to Madison, and I started working at a photo agency called Visage, and they basically sold like celebrity photos from like Vogue to international publications. And they had stacks of white cardstock that were like they were, one side was white and the other side said like Visage, and they were probably like 5x7 or 6x8. And they had like boxes and boxes of them. So when in my free time, I would like doodle little portraits from all the photos at the agency. And I started drawing like a lot at that agency. And then from there, I took some art classes in Los Angeles at Santa Monica College, which is like a community college. But they have really, really great instructors. And it's like I think it still is like very affordable. And when I was taking the drawing classes there, my life drawing teacher told me, he was like, oh, you should go to Art Center for illustration. I think you would be really good at that. And I didn't really know anything about Art Center, but I went to the school to visit. And then I got a lot of drawings together, and I applied for a scholarship to take a class. And I got the scholarship to do the life drawing class. And then like I just kept drawing. And then a couple of years later, I applied to Art Center and I got in. And I had been working in Los Angeles, but I decided to take a wild leap and try art school. It was really just like, I was like, well, I'm in my 20s, I'm exploring, and I'm going to try this illustration thing. Not with any intention of like becoming a children's book author or anything. When I went to school, I took a lot of different classes. I think maybe like my 6th or 7th semester, I took children's book illustration. And I remember when I took the class, I was thinking like, oh, I think this is something I could do. Like I sort of felt like I had the right style for it. And then I also like enjoyed the writing part of it. In that class, I wrote a story about a turtle who gets a job at the post office, but then he's too slow. So he trades places with a fox and becomes a sidewalk crack inspector.
That's the job I want.
I would read that.
I still stand by Tutu the turtle. So in that class, I sort of felt like, oh, this is something I could do. And then when I graduated from Art Center, I moved to New York, like within a year. And then I started working for the New York Times. And I just really kept trying to do children's books and exploring different ideas and different styles. And I mean, it took some time after I graduated. I think it was like 5 years probably. And then I started working with this agent. He was like the third agent I was working with. And he sold 2 books to Knopf. And then ever since then, I've just been writing and writing stories and illustrating with that mindset. Like, this is what I want to do. And like, it's my focus. Because I have a tendency to, I feel like I could go off in a lot of different directions, but children's books it just really appeals to me on so many levels. Like, I feel like it has such a good cause. It's like, it's a huge group of people can appreciate your books, and it just seems like it has such a good purpose. So that's kind of why I chose that path.
Yeah, it's a great path. And you have had a pretty epic 5 years. I mean, 4 books in 5 years, right?
Yeah, it was busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a great 5 years. I mean, life has been very good. So I'm very, very, very grateful.
Yeah.
I'm curious, I'm previewing that we'll be working with Whitefish Bay schools for at least one upcoming event, maybe two. I'm curious as to usually often when authors and illustrators do these, they kind of like to kind of weave some sort of educational component into it. There's of course lots of different ways to go with this book. So I'm curious to hear sort of as a preview to somebody who may have kids or grandkids in the school system, what kind of direction you're going in with your school programs for this.
For this, I mean, I think with Elevator Bird, I'm definitely going to talk about the message of kindness and how I just think like nowadays it's such an important message, like that we should be nice to each other, help each other out, really try to lift each other up, and just take out like all the negativity and name calling. It's like, it's not good. It like, everything is so divided. I think it's like just a shame, and it's really sad. So I think if kids can embrace different people and different characteristics about people, like that's a great thing. And I think Elevator Bird really hones in on that point. Like I made the entrance of the hotel like a rainbow, like purposefully, I wanted it to feel like really, really inclusive. And then like the little note on the top of the hotel, all are welcome, stay for a day or more. Like that was also very purposeful. Everything in Elevator Bird, or like a lot of it, like I did it with like the purpose of like being very inclusive and welcoming to everybody. So I think I'm going to really center my talk about the book around that message of kindness.
Oh, lovely.
Well, I think the honing in on the kindness of everything, it struck me just that all of those little interactions, just the little day-to-day things are a way to, I don't know, I thought Elevator Bird was, as somebody who works with the public, I feel like he just does a very good job of having all those little moments really matter and add up. So he was very inspiring to me. I guess you kind of talked about this already, but just in what's next, would you consider expanding beyond picture books or moving into easy readers? I mean, I think especially your first two books have that really nice, simple quality about them that has more than just what the words say.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it, definitely. Right now I'm trying to do like another narrative, sort of in that like crossover age Elevator Bird world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I've thought about chapter books and then or trying to pitch a series. But yeah, right now I think I'm working on more of a narrative. So we'll see what's in the future.
We had discussed how with your political science background, there was no end to the other opportunities for Bird. So.
Yeah, Government Bird. That was you, Daniel.
Bird.
A good opportunity to be kind too. That wouldn't be
Yeah.
I'm sure some people know this in the conversation, but some people don't, is we've been talking about doing an event with Sarah Williamson for several years.
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Is always tricky. And so we can be grateful for the explosion of video conferencing, but that we could finally make it work. Is it literal? What time is it there? I was thinking, I'd be so tired.
I think it's midnight. I took a nap before this.
Oh, good.
So
You
I'm
look
okay.
very refreshed.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you guys all so much for joining me. I saw a lot of people that I know who came, and I really appreciate it. And everybody
We're so grateful that you did, and we're so grateful to the Whitefish Bay Library, and we're grateful to all of you for showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Enjoy.
Good night.
Good night.
Hope you can get back to sleep again now.
Oh, yeah. I wish everybody a good night, a good afternoon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.